Okay, well, it sounds like we're all here, so why don't we go ahead and start our meeting for Tuesday, April 7th. We first do a call to order, which I just done, and the roll call. Emma, will you do roll call?
Yes, for the directors, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Emma, I think you call out the names.
Okay, let's start with Director LaHue,
I'm here.
Vice President Lather,
Here.
Director Jaffe,
On the computer.
Director Christensen,
Here.
and President Daniels.
I'm here as well. Okay, so we're all here. There's no public hearing tonight. The next item is the announcement by board members of items they wish to remove from the consent agenda. Oh, if anyone wants to talk on this item, does anyone said they want to talk on item 3?
President Daniels, I apologize. Would it be okay if I just give a brief introduction?
All right. Yep, yes. Because you want to talk about the procedures. Please do.
Yes. Sorry about that. But yeah, I just want to give a brief introduction to kind of the procedures for tonight. I mean, obviously a pretty unprecedented event for us in these unprecedented times. And so based on a series of executive orders issued by the governor, as well as Santa Cruz County's shelter-in-place order, certain provisions of the Brown Act have been suspended, most importantly, those that require us to actually meet at a physical location. So, you know, this Zoom meeting is in compliance with those requirements. The one issue which is not completely fleshed out in those executive orders or in the county shelter-in-place order is public comment. Where the public comment should still occur, but there's no specified procedure for agencies to follow on how to handle that. And Emma and her team have really been looking at how other agencies are looking at this. And we've really seen a whole range of, a whole gamut, where some agencies are not allowing any sort of live public comment during meetings, and they're requiring members of the public to provide written or text message or email public comment, which is then read into the record. To some agencies which are essentially allowing any member of the public who might be on the phone to speak. And we've seen some pluses and minuses with those approaches. I think, you know, one minus potential with just allowing members of the public to jump in, as we've seen some of the Zoom bombing and other people sort of, you know, interjecting. So what staff has set up for tonight is a procedure that allows live public comment, provided that someone submitted a written speakers form by 3 p.m. Today. We did receive a number of those, and we'll be allowing those members of the public to comment on the items they requested. And you know, the last thing I would say before I turn it over back to you, President Daniels, is this is staff's you know, recommended procedure for this meeting, and we would certainly welcome feedback from the board on ways to potentially, you know, change, modify, or continue this. And we'll also, on our end, continue to look at how other agencies are handling this issue and implement whatever best practices that we see agencies develop. Thank you.
Okay. So we're on item 3, which is the announcement by board members of items to be removed from the consent agenda. So we can go down the list. But we can go backwards this time. Carla, do you have anything you want to remove?
I wanted to pull 4.6.
Okay.
Oh, no, and 4.8, actually. It was 4.8, sorry.
Okay.
But I just wanted to make a comment on 4.6. I don't want to pull it. I just wanted to discuss 4.8.
Okay. Well, I'd say if you want to make a comment on it, we should probably pull it then. That's what we've done.
But then, okay, then we'd have to vote on it, though. But
Yeah,
you know.
well, no, it's not a vote item. It's information only.
Okay.
Correction of course. Okay. Michelle, do you have any more for?
Well, there was a request from the public to have a bunch of them pulled. So Josh, are you saying that those will all be pulled automatically based on that request? Or?
Those not be, my apologies. No, those, Mr. Director LaHue, they will not be pulled unless a member, unless a director wishes to pull them. That same procedure is still in place.
Okay.
So Tom, do you wish to pull anything?
Nope.
Mr. Jaffe, do you wish to pull anything?
When a member of the public asks to pull something, I'm going to pull it. So 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, 4.5.
So basically, we pull everything.
No,
We're pulling everything, basically.
no, not
Carl,
four,
we just did 4,
not
6,
4.6, not 4.7, and not 4.9.
The list I saw.
That's not according to my list.
The list I had everything but 4, 6, and 4, 8.
Really?
No, 4.6 and 4.9. 4.6
4,
and
9.
4.9.
Okay. All right, that's correct. 4, 6, and 4, 9. Okay.
Yeah, and I just hope that the comments will be brief. We already have written comments,
Yeah.
so I don't want to make the meeting longer than it has to be, but I do think that I'm just going to honor that a member of the public wants to pull.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Vice President? Barbara?
There's nothing left to pull.
There is 4, 9.
And 4.6, right?
No,
No,
we
No, I
already,
want to comment on that too. So.
Okay. Well, then I'll make the motion that we approve 4, 9.
Second.
second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Okay, so I just want to confirm, President Daniels made the motion, and was it
Oh, it
Director?
was Rochelle, sorry.
Yes.
Did the second or made the motion?
She
I
was
made
seconded.
second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will start roll call. Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. So now all of those consent items except 4, 9 will go to the end of the meeting after all the regular items.
All right.
So that being the case,
Oral communications.
yep, item 5, oral communications. So I don't have the list of people who've said they wanted to do this.
Shall I say it? It's Frederick Menge and Becky Steinbrenner.
Okay, Frederick, you wish to address us?
So I am not seeing his email or phone number on the participants list.
Okay,
There is a 509 number, but that does not match the request to speak form that was submitted.
okay,
But I do have a phone number from Ms. Steinbrunner, so I will take her off mute now. And just to make note, Becca, the oral communications time is 3 minutes. Thank you. So I will unmute Ms. Steinbrunner now.
Thank you. Can you hear me? This is Becky Steinbrunner.
yes, you
Yes.
are heard.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank you all for taking these unprecedented measures to protect your health and the health of all of those in the community. So thank you. I know this is not an easy task, but I appreciate your efforts, and to allow the public to speak. I very much value, and again, appreciate that too. What I would like to say involves written communication that I did send your board. Because I am limited to 3 minutes here, I would like to target in on the aesthetic mitigations for the Granite Way well. I have written your board many times. I have asked your board many times to do something about the way the Granite Way well looks. It is very imposing. I was finally able to send you some photographs in the event that none of you has been by there. So what I'm asking for is to abide by your own 2010 well master plan mitigations that specifically address this issue of aesthetics. In 2010, the Granite Way well was in a different location and really out of sight from the public. In 2015, after your board approved the mitigations for the old site, the site was changed to a now very publicly visible spot. It is incumbent upon you to really pay attention to this. It's unsightly. It is not in character with the area, with the existing Aptos Village plan, and it hides. It obscures the view of the historic Aptos apple barn, the Heen apple barn. If you can do anything, please do so. I was told at your last meeting there was a landscape plan in process, or that there was landscaping planned. But when I filed a Public Record Act request to see the plans, I'm a gardener, I have an interest in these things, there was nothing. Now, it's full of weeds, there's a bundle of electrical wires that comes out by the sidewalk, and it is just an eyesore and not at all what I was told in 2015 by Mr. Dufour would occur at that site. So I would like to now ask you to please take the mitigation measures necessary, remove that fence, and put in something that is more aesthetically pleasing and in keeping with the character of the Aptos Village. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And time's up, so we move on. I guess we still don't have that other Frederick fellow available.
Let me double check the list of participants. No, there is just one unidentified phone number.
Okay. All right, so that's item 5 is done. Any director comments?
I would at some point like to see what the plan for the landscaping at that site is as well. So, you know, I go by there frequently as well. So just, it doesn't have to be right away, but I would like to know what the plan was because I didn't think there was supposed to be some landscaping.
Okay, we'll schedule that as a future agenda item. Anyone else? Carla? Michelle?
I think there is actually not only that location, but I've asked for all locations to be evaluated for aesthetics.
You have, and it's on the list of topics to bring to the board. So yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's being done. Let's move on to item 6, reports. There are none. So we now move on to administrative business number 7. There are no conditional or unconditional will serve letters. So we move on to item 7.2, which is an update regarding the district's response to COVID-19 and adopt resolution 20-12, proclaiming a local emergency and delegating authority. So I think Ron is the presenter on this item.
Yes, thank you, President Daniel. So this is to give the board and the public an update of what's been going on really since our last board meeting and the virus has struck the world. So it's divided into 4 parts. One is just to inform you of modifications to the Brown Act, and I don't think I need to dwell on that too much. It's in there, but it's allowing this meeting to be conducted in the manner that it is, plus other things. I do want to touch on an update on some of the actions that we've done as staff to protect ourselves, the board, the community, and our consultants and other stakeholders we work with. Also, really the meat of it is soliciting some input and direction from the board and adopting resolution 2012. So if there's not any, you can ask me questions about the Brown Act meeting modification like, but they're listed there. So I'll just move on to just district work modifications. So I think for an essential service such as the water district, the main concern really is keeping everybody healthy to provide water, right? I mean, that's it at its core. And take billing in so we can pay the bills and that sort of thing. So it's protection of the staff at its core, and then it radiates out into staff members' families and the community at large. So we've been doing that. And I won't go into all the details, but rotations and distancing, all the things that have been recommended, probably plus, people have really taken the reins. Like I'll note Taj is coming in occasionally just to wipe down things and sterilize handles, even going in the bathrooms, even though there's hardly anybody there. Customer service off-site, they're remote, and they're able to effectively work with our customers and taking billing and answering questions. And from what I understand, the feedback's actually been very positive. Even in the field, I think people have kind of cheering us on. We heard things from the high five to the peace sign being flashed to our work. So it's an encouraging time. I think it's time for people pull together. So we've been undertaking several modifications to not only protect us now, but if it goes further, things that we can put in place. So I'll recognize that at its core, communication is the most important thing, and making sure people have what they need to work from home. And so we've been focusing heavily on that, with every department having meetings every day and all the managers having meetings like what we're doing here today. So we feel like the Brady Bunch, that picture you see on the screen where they're all talking to each other. I think that's us a couple hours a day. So that's that part. Customer service modifications. What I took here is, we realize this is hard on our customers. They're scared to go out or don't want to go out, and we don't blame them. I mean, we are too. So how do they pay their bills? How do they communicate? That sort of thing. What happens if they can't? What happens if they're out of work and they can't pay their bills? What are we going to do? So it's all laid out here in the memo, and this is directly from the website, but I'll just note a few things. For example, we are concerned if people lose their jobs and they can't pay, so we will not be shutting anybody off. We voluntarily did that a while back, and now the state has mandated that. But we were ahead of the curve doing it, because we thought it was the right thing to do, working with customers on payments and things like that, where they do want to pay but may have to stretch it over time. So there's a host of things, and a lot of them are outlined here in the memo. So at its core, though, what we're also letting customers know is their water's safe, as it has been and as it will be. This virus is not impacting the quality of the water, and so we've been communicating that message very robustly too, thanks to Melanie and Becca's team there. So in regarding input and direction from the board, there's a couple things. We realized with this virus hitting us, we needed plans in place and decisions that we don't have in place. We have an emergency plan. Christine's put that together along with Melanie. It's a very good emergency plan, but it doesn't cover exactly the aspects of things like we're seeing today. And what the plan that covers that kind of thing is what's referred to as a COOP, or continuity of operations. So at the direction of President Daniels and just realizing ourselves, we put some things, we're starting, and Tracy's heading it up, to put together a COOP, if you will. And so we want some direction on some aspects of the COOP that you would like to be in there. And they really revolve around delegation of authority of the board. We already have it for staff. I've listed out, if I was to get sick or hit by a bus or something, how the lineage goes and follows down, and other managers are doing it too. But in this, on page 132, roughly, Becca, as you move the screen, perfect, you'll see there's a draft resolution, but if we go down one more page, what we're really asking for is direction on the COOP. Go down a little bit more, Becca, please. Yep. Show that. Yeah, a little bit more. Perfect. So staff request direction, and this will be for apply whatever you select today. It'll be applicable now and into the future. Part 2 is really just pertinent to the current crisis, if you will. So, but we thought we would tackle it all. So anyway, what the questions, I'm going to go through them A through C here in number 1. If the board's not able to meet during an emergency, are the directors willing to delegate the decision-making authority to the board president and vice president? If so, to what degree? Please note that some actions will require a quorum of the board. And I expect Josh to help me out with some of this. So that's one question. And then if you did delegate, which is I think kind of standard practice to delegate the authority to the board president and vice president, but what happens if they are not able to participate and attend an emergency meeting? Does the board want to create a protocol to who's next in line? And so I give 2 examples there. One's by longevity, the other one's by last name, just to give you 2 examples to work from. And then the third thing is the willingness to triple the procurement policy limit for the finance business manager and the general manager. In this certain case, because it would equate to increasing Leslie's authority, the finance business manager, from 25,000 to 75,000, and for the general manager, myself, from 50 to 150. So this is to, we get caught in a bind between meetings or whatever, is to facilitate the purchase of supplies deemed necessary to continue on with the operations. It's not to go out willy-nilly and do things, but say some pumps went out or that sort of thing. So that's the first part. And maybe I'll just read the second part, and then Director Daniels, we can go to the motions or ask questions, but take public comment. But the second part is specific to the COVID-19 emergency. And that we're requesting that the board authorize only during this emergency to designate the general manager as the acting director of emergency service. I'm authorized to declare, or the general manager is, that any of the district's current or future public works projects constitute an essential government function under the terms of Santa Cruz Shelter in Place, and it may be amended, which may be amended in the future. And there are also other things in the resolution to which that is part of, and I didn't go into the details. They seem less discussion worthy, I guess. But 2A is so we can continue work that's necessary and issue letters to our staff and anybody else that's working with us on essential functions. So if the police or the sheriff say, hey, what are you doing out here? They can show them their office. It's an essential function. So with that, you can see the motions. I think they're pretty well laid out. I know you need to take public comment, but for Becca's prodding, thank you, Becca, perfect. And there is, and then there's one more thing. Go up just a hair, Becca, or down, I guess. I'll say down. No, yeah, that's down. Okay, thank you. We haven't rehearsed that part. If there's anything else in the memo that you want to provide direct, like maybe something regarding the customers or whatever, I wanted to give the board the flexibility. So there's item 3 there also. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so it is time for public comment. I believe we just have one person, which is Becca. So this is a 2-minute time frame. So she has 2 minutes.
Ms. Steinbrenner, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbruner. I want to again thank you for this opportunity to speak directly with your board. And what I really am concerned about, and that I wrote you about, is stated in the COVID-19 emergency authorization to allow the general manager to declare that, quote, any of the district's current or future public works projects constitute an essential government function under the terms of the County of Santa Cruz's Shelter-in-Place order dated March 31st, 2020. I am concerned this state of emergency may go for quite a long time. I'm hearing now into the fall. And I am concerned that General Manager Mr. Duncan would declare the Pure Water Soquel project to be deemed essential. And contractors and their workers would be coming into Santa Cruz from outside of the area and possibly bringing with them contamination. And I just feel this is, I would like some restriction on this, that any public works deemed essential with your district are for repairs only. Because we have to take seriously this sense of not bringing in unnecessarily those from other areas that could be, let's say, from Los Angeles or the Santa Clara Valley, that could bring with them a possible new infection into our area. The virus is mutating very quickly, and we cannot risk that. So while I am appreciative that this adds fluidity to your decision making, I want to ask that
Thank
your
you.
board add in repair only. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we come back to the board. We'll now go through the board members, and each of them will get a chance to ask any questions of staff or make comments or propose some kind of motions that we might do. So let's see how we start. I think Ron is the first.
Who's first? Me?
Yep, Ron.
I'm actually okay with most of those actions. And I wanted a little clarification on kind of what kind of procurement might be needed in an emergency that would be different than usual, and whether some of those still should go at least through the board president and vice president. So maybe Ron can say what would be something that we need to triple that for.
Well, you know, it's that's a good question. I mean, we don't, the policy set based on not having those kind of surprises, but if, so for example, in this situation, if we weren't able to even do this, get caught off guard, or an earthquake and there's no communication type thing, we can't get the board together, and let's say it severed some pipes, we needed to hire some consultants to come in and replace that. That's above my authority generally, or Leslie's. It gives us a little more flexibility. Not a whole lot. I mean, 150K still doesn't go a tremendous distance under emergencies and replacing infrastructure or dealing with things. But, or let's say a pump goes out, even if it's budgeted, if it's above those limits, we're supposed to come back. So that give you a flavor to what we're referring to?
So, yeah. Thank you.
It could be anything, really. I mean, just about.
I think Rochelle, you're next.
I was trying to look at the warrants because there's a number of items that you have to put on there, right, to pay it. And I don't know how many are in that price range because I was trying to find it on another, but that would be one of the things, right? I mean, if you look at the warrants, how many of them would be able to be paid without the board's approval at this point?
Yeah, that would be a good example in this snapshot in time.
Yeah, because we want to be able to pay our bills.
Yeah.
And that would make it a lot easier to do that. I did have a question. Let's see.
Rochelle, as you're looking that up, I'll add though, if there was an emergency, let's say a tidal wave, it would bring on a whole host of other maybe potential purchases needed or something like that.
Oh, it's funny. I keep trying to move the one that's on the screen and it's not moving for me. Sorry about that. Yeah, yeah, that was one of the things I was going to talk about, was that I don't have a problem with that, because especially items that are already budgeted, that we approve the budget, that are over those limits, can now just be approved. That's not a problem. I also, I think as far as 1B goes, I mean, delegating authority to the next longest running board members, I'm not counting, I don't know who's the longest running. I know Tom is, but.
No, Bruce Jaffe would be the next.
Oh, okay.
By a month or two, right, Tom?
I don't know.
But experience, with these things would be what I would be looking at if I was going to choose something like that.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm hoping it doesn't get to that, but this is a really good thing that you're looking at all of this.
Yeah.
And
I agree with you 100%. I just didn't know how to foresee who might be, applicable, the best in line. So I just use these two examples as a place to start from. We're certainly open, though.
I would think, even though I've got a month or two on Tom, since he's been president and vice president, he should be next in line.
yeah, that's true.
Right, but what we're trying to do here is set a model up, not for this particular situation, but one that can be in place. I mean, you can do it based on you could say, probably designate certain ones for now, but as soon as it changes, then we got to go back to the coup. I was trying to do something that would endure the test of time.
I mean, if they want that, you could just say the previous president or vice president or something like that. Yeah, that would be somebody with the most recent experience or something like that.
Yeah, I'd put that in front of longevity.
Okay.
And
well, yeah, I mean, other groups that I've been, they designate a former president as the ex officio vice president or vice president, and so they have a passive role that is official too, if they were needed to step in to be a president or vice president. So it's that there is a precedent. I've been on other committees and boards where they did that.
So it looks like it's a consensus that we do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So Bill, do you have anything else?
Well, I just want to be clear. So down the line, then, let's say if the vice president and president can't get together, then we'll go to the previous president, and then by longevity. You want to say that? Because it's good for them to have another person, or do you just want to give it to the single authority to a single person? And Josh, is that okay?
You'd like to have two people. So if both of them are out, and you try and get two people.
Yes, that's the concept.
And if it goes to 3, we don't have a meeting.
Yeah.
So that's all we have to cover is 2. And
Well,
hopefully
you notice
we'll
that
get there.
this item number 1 says, first of all, if the board is not able to meet during an emergency, then we do all this stuff.
Yeah.
If the board is able to meet, then there's no tripling of that. There's no designation of the general manager. All those things don't apply if the board can meet.
Yeah. Always, if the board can meet, that takes the precedent.
Yep, exactly.
It may not be exactly clear in the memo now that I look at it. I could have phrased it better, but that was the intent. So if I may, I'll jump in. So what I'm hearing is the board president and vice president are delegated that authority if the board cannot meet. If one of the two can't make it there, then the previous board president will join up with either the board president or vice president. And if neither one of the current vice president or board president can make it, then the ex-president comes in, and the next longest in longevity, if possible.
Sure.
And tenure, call it tenure, not longevity, please.
Okay. Okay.
Good point.
Okay, got that clear.
So
Okay,
we'll just get,
Jackie, did you have any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I do. On page 131, underneath the Dropbox, there's a statement. And Ron, that's on our website somewhere now?
well, this was on the website as the time I took it. We constantly, you can imagine how fast we're changing things. And Becca, I'll give you the discretion if you want to chime in, because she controls this or does this along with Melanie. But this probably is essentially what's up there, but maybe it's been modified slightly.
You're correct, Ron. It is what's up there right now.
Yeah, but Leslie has, I think on our website, we've notified people that we will not be, I think, Leslie, if you can unmute Leslie, and
Maybe
Leslie, can you chime in about how we've dialogued with people or communicated regarding, we won't be sending anybody shut off notices. I believe that's correct.
Okay, Ron, why don't you let me say what I was going to say, and then Leslie can respond to that.
Okay.
So I'm concerned about two things. Puts the onus on people to contact the district to not be charged late fees. So they have to make arrangements. So to me, that's too restrictive. I don't think we should, in these unusual times, be charging late fees. And the second part of it is, do we have capacity if we decide not to change it so that you do have to contact the district? What if all of a sudden we get 1,000 or 2,000 people contacting the district saying, like to make arrangements to not pay late fees?
So we did actually have a late fee waiver for the first 6 months that we rolled out the new Tyler system. And so we corresponded with a lot of customers during those first 6 months who would call and ask to have their late fees waived. Typically for those people who are struggling to make payments, they do contact us in advance of those and either make extenuating payment arrangements, or they contact us and say, can you please waive it, which we are doing at this point. Usually you only can have a late fee waived once in a 12-month period. So we're waiving them for anybody who calls and is struggling with paying their bill. In addition, we're not contacting people and telling them their water service is due to be shut off. Instead, we're calling them directly, and our customer service and billing representatives are talking to them directly and asking them if there's any way we can assist with setting up payment arrangements.
But the policy is not to shut off anybody's water, correctly?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Nor do we send out that reminder call that says failure to pay will result in your water being shut off. That call has been suspended, and instead our billing representatives are calling people in person and saying, we understand that you're maybe having trouble getting your bill paid. How can we assist you in setting up a payment arrangement?
And if they say they can't pay, what happens then?
Then we set up an extended payment. We set up extended payment terms. We can go all the way out 12 months, actually.
Yeah. And this is not to you, Leslie, this is to other directors. Maybe I'm an outlier here, but it seems heartless to charge late fees at a time when there's so many people's income affected. And it also, I realize there might be some wealthy people who go, oh, they're not charging late fees, so I won't pay. But if I understand the finances of the district, I think we could weather people paying at a later date. And I think the way to handle this is just not even put a late fee on at this point.
Oh, can I speak that? Well, I would be willing to waive the late fees for the next 6 months, but then or something like that until we're out of the emergency, you mean, and people are back at work. Yeah, I'd be fine with that, but it's hard setting when that duration would be. That's what I was thinking. I wasn't really too bothered by the making arrangements, because I thought, well, people who really need it can do it, and then anybody else just pays their bills the way they always do. But I'm definitely willing to just take that. I mean, it's another chore that the district staff have to do too at this time when it's so hard to get anything done because no one's at work or anything. So, so I am feeling that out, and it depends on what the staff think too, I think.
Well, I think we have to recognize the majority of our income comes from, the rates. And if everyone is encouraged not to pay anything for the next year, I'm not sure what's the finances of this district, particularly while we're trying to do Clearwater and get it done early so we can get those things actually covered by the grant. That could be pretty terrible, I think. I think we should study it a bit before we just let everyone have free water for next year.
I'm not quite clear what the problem is with somebody just having to explain why they can't pay.
Well, how apparent is it that's the policy? Is this just something somewhere on our website somewhere, or people being notified? Is it?
It says it right on the face of their billing statement. We've put it out as well on our website and in our e-blast.
So
I'll also add today, the Aptos Times, I believe it's called. We got the front right cover of their thing. It says no shutoffs by Soquel Creek. And it took basically exactly what you're seeing here and published as an article. It was really nice of them. So it's getting out there some, Bruce.
okay. So the concern is that if we make a policy of no late fees, that people are going to game the system and not pay any bills.
Or just, I mean, there's no reason for people who can pay to not. I mean,
I agree.
so why not just keep everything rolling except for people who need help and then give them a break?
No.
I mean, if I couldn't pay my bill, I don't think it'd be too much to ask for me to email or communicate with the district and say, hey, can I have some leeway? And they say, sure. No, I don't know. Seems reasonable to me.
And we have the capacity to handle that.
Yes, we do.
From a staffing point of view, I will say that this is an evolving situation. It may get better quickly. It looks like New York's peaked. It could get worse. So we will evolve with it, is what I think, is the way I envision thing. Policies or payment plans may evolve too with it, and methods of help.
I think that's a good point, is that this doesn't need to be a permanent thing. So if a couple of months from now we find out the current scheme isn't working, we'll bring it back to the board and change it.
That would make sense. Well, I'd like to see it, on our homepage.
Yeah.
Which I'm looking at right now. And there is coronavirus information. And it's not very prominent in what I'm looking at.
Have staff do that.
Yeah, I'd like them to make it very prominent that the message that there won't be any cutoffs, and also that basically that we'll work with people on payment plans and waive late fees when people cannot pay on time.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Because I'm looking at it and I'm not seeing it. So I just
We'll modify it.
Okay.
and And, you know, I'm a little sensitized to this because of the insanity that the county has with paying taxes. They have a, you know, a weird policy on late fees with that. So
I think we have given direction to staff. Okay, anything else, Bruce?
nothing else.
Okay, Carla.
Oh, well, there actually there was one thing I was glad to see in what Tracy sent out that encourages the staff to wear masks whenever possible and gloves when they're out in public.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, Tracy's been doing a phenomenal job, and we try to balance what we provide to the board or share out. We don't want to overload you, but we try to give you a taste or a flavor of what we're doing to make sure we're in sync without you having to feel like you're, you know, in the day-to-day weeds of the district. So, so yeah, that's the kind of thing. A lot of that's been going on, what you've seen, safety protocols, not just for our staff, but like I mentioned, for customers, consultants, other stakeholders. We take it very, very seriously.
Okay.
All right, Carla, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I think we pretty much covered it. And I just want to, I'm glad we had the discussion about the late payments. I would support, after hearing the discussion, I would be in favor of trying to see if just the prior making arrangements, if you're not gonna be able to cover the bill at said by the due date, is preferable than letting everything slide, because the late fee isn't there for any other reason anyway, except to make sure that people pay their bill on time so that we can keep our income flow going. So I think it's fairly important to keep that in mind, but I'm totally in favor of making it as prominent as we can, because it is an important thing that we're doing by having people be able to call the district and make arrangements.
Well, I have one thing I wanted to bring up, which is on page 172, I think it is, where it talks about the board of directors isn't able to meet, then the president and vice president may provide policy guidance. And I'm not quite sure what is and what isn't policy guidance. Like, much of the stuff we've been talking about is, you know, for example, taking money out of a reserve to go and do repairs or something in this budget. And is that policy or is that finances? And I don't know exactly what, you know, the president and vice president are allowed to do and not allowed to do.
So that's a great question, Bruce. And I think Josh is going to address that.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Yeah, it is a very good question, and the intent there is there are certain things that just require board approval, and so, you know, in those situations, even with this resolution, it would still need to be deferred until the board can meet, or we'd have to figure out some other way to do that. An example would be, you know, issuing bonds or some other, you know, major decision which by law has to be made by the board. That wouldn't qualify as policy guidance, but there's a lot of other decisions or items that we might bring to the board to get your input and your feedback and your direction. I think an example that you just discussed would be how to handle late fees. And so under this language, that sort of, those sort of decisions could be made by the president or vice president. And the thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
How about the example I just gave of taking money out of one of the reserve funds?
And so reserve funds, that could be done under this, because that's something that is set by board policy and not, you know, necessarily it's a strict legal matter. President Jones, one thing I would note though is on the additional, there's an additional reference in that to what are called temporary officers in some government code sections. And those actually have separate provisions where in a situation where, you know, God forbid, if we're ever there where we had fatalities or folks who are unable to act because they were very, very sick, those provisions allow us to appoint temporary board members. And so in an absolute worst case, we'd be able to utilize that to get a quorum of the board to make those types of decisions that wouldn't fall under resolution.
I've heard about that, yes. Okay, that's the only question I had. So, possible actions. We can do these one by one, there are 3 of them.
Perfect, Becca.
Okay.
So does anyone want to make a motion for number 1?
I'll make a motion on that. I think we cleared that up pretty well, didn't we? We've got the board and vice president, and then the an ex officio president or vice president, and
Yes.
after that, the person with the longest tenure.
Yes.
Okay, with that, and I think that was the only other change that I saw in one. So that's my motion.
Okay.
I'll second. The other woman, Rochelle.
Yes, that other woman.
Okay, and then the third woman, I'm going to now call roll.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. Now we come to motion number 2. Any problems with this?
Okay, I'll make the motion for number 2.
I'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. So does anyone want to do anything with number 3?
Well, number 3, we did have some direction, correct?
We could make a motion out of it, yes.
Yes, we have a motion to request the staff clarify and make more prominent that that help is available on late fees. Late fees are for people who are having trouble making payments, and make that a prominent, prominently on our face page and our web page, and any other areas that might be needed. And I think, well, then there was the other direction on the power of the president, vice president for policy, to do policy, but I don't know exactly whether we can vote on that yet. Or we have something to vote on.
Yeah, I thought that was just clarification.
Okay,
Language is already.
all right. So that's the only motion, that's the only direction I have.
I'll second that direction.
So
Okay.
motion second, roll call, please.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Let's
And
move on.
just on your question there, that discussion about the president, vice president, that was incorporated into the motion, into the resolution. So that was approved by the board as well under motion number 1.
Okay.
Okay, now we move to item 7.3, seawater
Okay.
intrusion prevention, recharge project of the Pure Water Soquel program. Adopt plans and specifications. Call for bids. Adopt findings of project substantially complex. So, Taj is going to present this, so Becca needs to unmute him.
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Good evening, board. Thank you for considering this tonight. This item really is not committing the district to any financial commitments. This is, of course, we're going out to bid on this. This is a different approach than we've taken with the pipeline and the treatment facilities. So you've seen this done before, and you know the routine. The way this part of the Pure Water Soquel project is actually going to be split up into 3 separate bid procurement. This one before you is just drilling the two other seawater intrusion prevention wells, the Willowbrook and the Monterey well, but also redeveloping the Twin Lakes Church. When we finished the pilot project, we did find that that well could use an additional redevelopment. So those items are what is before you. There's also part of the Monterey well. In order for them to get a drill rig on that site, they have to remove the existing iron and manganese filtration equipment and some above ground metal buildings. And so that is all part of this project and schedule. We estimate that combined work will take about 226 calendar days, putting completion in January of next year. And again, after that, we'll have to procure the site improvements, the civil site improvements, which is electrical and any on-site plumbing, as well as any equipment that goes inside the well. And then separately, the monitoring wells associated with each seawater intrusion prevention well. So we recognize that these things don't get built overnight, and we are trying to coordinate with the Montessori school that is adjacent to the Willowbrook site and do this work while they're off in the summer. The engineer's estimate is $1.8 million for the work that I described, and both of the Willowbrook and the Monterey sites include 24-foot tall sound walls. I don't know if any of you saw the sound walls that were constructed when we drilled the Granite Way well, but they'll be similar, actually a little taller than that, but similar in form. I have no additional report for you. There's several, there's profiles for the two additional wells, the Monterey well and the Willowbrook wells. The Monterey well is the shallower well, and the Willowbrook well is roughly 800 feet deep, and the Monterey well 500 feet, 550. So they'll be constructed similarly to Twin Lakes, with the glass beads that you might have been introduced to. We'll leave it at that. If I'm more than welcome to answer any questions you may have.
Let's go to public comment first. I think we only have one person, Becky.
Ms. Steinbrenner, you're now unmuted.
Hi, thank you. This is Becky Steinbrenner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. I want to protest this project going out to bid. Remind you again, it is still under litigation, and I am going to appeal the Coastal Commission's consolidated development permit. I want to point out to you that you should also follow the law in terms of getting permits to do these well developments. You did not on the Twin Lakes Church and were called into violation by the state regional water quality control board. I really am offended that you continue to move forward. I do want to make sure that as you go out to bid for these two new injection wells, that you honor the City of Capitola's request for extra noticing for the local residents in Capitola for the Monterey well. I have been there and seen that there is an apartment complex immediately next to the fence. And I am curious how you're going to handle those people as you do that development. So again, I want to protest that you're doing this and hope that you will follow the law with these contracts. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that was the only one. Now we bring it back to the board. So, you have questions, or you want to make comments, or talk about motions? This is the time. Carla, you want to start?
Okay, well, I have a question, and it's tangential to what Becky Steinbruder said, and that is about notification to the people, especially because of the delay. Like I was thinking about this because of Montessori school, they may be in school session this summer because of trying to catch up after this is over. It may require some additional notification to make sure everybody's not taken back by it, because there's a lot of people at home at the moment. If they had to stay home a lot, it just might, we might have to add some additional consideration to notification.
Taj, you want to respond to that?
Sure, and we are assembling our mailing list, and we will comply with the EIR's notification requirements for that project. Similarly, we've been in touch with the neighbors around the well, in addition to the Shore Life Church apartments, and there's mitigation and plans in place to accommodate any inconvenience that we have with those neighbors. Yes, we will certainly be in touch with the Montessori school as well as the neighbors. To be honest, I am not anticipating with those sound walls. I think they could still probably carry out their activity. We're just trying to minimize the inconvenience. It's not a requirement of the EIR. It is something that we can try to schedule around. We'll do our best to do that and minimize overlap as much as possible. Otherwise, we really have no other option. If we're targeting the summer, because that's the most, they do have a summer schedule, but it's not as crowded. That's what we've been.
Oh, I was thinking of an extended academic schedule. A lot of schools are going to keep going after the closure, and I don't know. Who knows which ones are and aren't? So that's all. Yeah. And it's a private school.
Carla, I'll say that we've been in decent, fair communication with the school.
Okay.
So in dialogue with them and trying to meet their needs.
And then I also want to bring up there's a pickleball for court over by the Willowbrook site. And so I was thinking if we might want to. I think I have some people contacted me about that. They wanted, as long as we were changing things, they wanted to change the gate system there, and we might be able to incorporate that into our plans. That's just something I'd like to see happen too.
Yeah, the site plans are not yet finished. This, of course, before you is just to put the straw in the ground, if I may say so. And yeah, that's a county park.
Yeah.
And, I have not been in touch. No one has contacted me yet about that. Carla, I know we discussed that, but no one has contacted me about that from.
Oh, okay, I'll see. I'll go. I'm pretty sure it's just a convenience thing, but it might be something that we could easily accommodate.
Okay.
I'm not sure of it either. I don't play pickleball there, so.
Okay, Mr. Jaffe? Questions, comments?
None.
Okay. Rochelle, questions, comments?
Hearing nothing, can I make a motion that we?
Okay.
I just turned myself off, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we're clear that you know what kinds of permits you are required to get to drill a well, and that you've followed through on all of them.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's the answer we wanted.
Then I'll make all three motions.
I'll second Carla. We'll second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. We've done that. Now we will move on to the next agenda item, which is item 7.4, the headquarters office trailer, approving preliminary environmental assessment and categorical exemption. I think this is Taj again.
Yes, hi again. Well, it's a team effort, but if you remember back in May of last year, almost a year ago, time does fly, the board approved the general manager to purchase an office trailer for this purpose of additional office space. We have not purchased the office trailer yet. We do have the quotes, and this is the appropriate SqCWD action because the project does include some utilities that are necessary to bring that trailer up and running. So we've designated it as a project. And we are coordinating with the county planning department for this additional office space. And so this is before you to consider. They're likely, depending on the scope and estimated cost, the utilities may not need to come before the board because they'll follow under the authority of the general manager to authorize. I don't anticipate they'll exceed his authorization.
So, public comment. We have none.
I don't think there is public comment on this one.
There isn't.
No, there isn't.
No, I looked at the list.
Okay.
Tom, questions, comments?
No, sounds reasonable to me.
Me
Michelle?
too. Me too. Fine.
Jeffy?
No?
Okay, someone want to make a motion?
I will.
I'll make a motion.
Nope, Carla, you make it.
I got it.
Okay, Rochelle, second it.
Okay,
There you
Got
go.
it.
there's women again. Roll call, please.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
President Daniels.
Yes. 7.4 is done. Now we'll move to 7.5, the Consumer Confidence Water Quality Report. And let's see, Greg and Christine, who does this? I'll turn on their microphones.
Okay, it looks like I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Christine Mead, the O&M manager, and Greg Wilson will be presenting our draft annual consumer confidence report, also known as the water quality report. Greg is our water quality program coordinator. He's been with us for about 8 months now, and he's doing a great job taking over for Carla James. So take it away, Greg.
Becca, is Greg unmuted?
He is.
Okay. Greg,
Greg,
we
you
cannot
there?
hear you. We'll give him a second, and if not, Christine can fill in.
If Greg is having trouble connecting with his computer audio, he could always call in the number as well.
Yes. If you can even hear us, of course.
I just texted him.
Yeah, I just texted him as well.
Did you give him the phone number to call in on?
He says he's calling in right now. I got a response from him.
Fantastic.
Great.
It always happens on your first time doing a
Yeah.
presentation.
Wouldn't you know it?
In fact, I suppose sometimes people make it happen the first time. Do we have a call yet?
Christine, do you want to go ahead and kind of give an overview and then let Greg take it away, just in case he can't make it on?
Sure, we can start here.
Or we could, we could go to another item and come back to this one, President Daniels.
What do you prefer, Christine?
Well, yeah, can we move on to 7.6 and give them a chance?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so we're picking up 7.6, which is authorizing a professional service agreement for O&M for phase 1. And let's see, this is Melanie. So let's turn her on.
Hi, good evening, everybody. It's great to see you forward. The item before you is item 7.6, which is to enter into a professional consulting services agreement with SqCWD, also specifically with Jacobs. The firm that the selection and review committee went through a procurement process, which I will further elaborate on, to provide some professional services during the design phase of the treatment project of the Pure Water Soquel project. So as you know, over the last couple of months, the district staff has been bringing forward contracts to initiate the design of the components of the Pure Water Soquel project. So as of the item just prior to this one, where Taj brought forward the design of the project to go out to bid, we have the conveyance project now under the design phase, the treatment project under design phase, and now this is one of the last components that we have identified during the next 6 months that we would like to have some additional services provided, specifically for operations, operability, and maintenance water purification facility. So as outlined in this agenda item, we did describe that the district would go out and procure OMAR services. OMAR is an acronym for Operations Maintenance at Risk, which is the method whereby we are asking firms to come a little bit early to the table rather than just hire a third-party operator to operate a project after it's been designed and built. In this model, we want to have early input as we go forward with the design, that a firm that has the qualifications and the expertise in operating an advanced water purification facility can come on board and work with the district and our progressive design build team. So through that process, really it's kind of a multi-phase. The first phase is just to work with us, the district, and the design build team, which is Black and Beach, as we are moving forward with design, going from the 30% and the 60% in development of the guaranteed maximum price of the project, to really look through that lens and wear that hat alongside the district and the treatment team on aspects specifically related to the operations, the maintenance, the equipment, the long-term operations of the facility and life cycle costs. The second phase of an OMAR would be to assist the design builder with the startup and commissioning of the project. That would be not where they would work specifically with the design build team. And then the third phase is entering into a new agreement, not this agreement that's set forth before you today, but a more comprehensive long-term agreement for the operations of the facility once it was constructed. Procuring this firm that was Jacobs that we bought before, we did go ahead and issue out an RFQ. And as listed here, we had meetings with them, with numerous firms that were interested in all of the different components of the project. We also held an open house and we posted our RFQ onto 2 different websites to kind of increase interest. We also established a review and selection committee that's outlined in the staff memo. And then we received 7 statements of qualifications from Acciona, Consolidated Water, Infomark, Jacobs, IDE, Suez, and Viola. We did review those statements of qualifications, scored them, and then we did identify 4 firms that to be qualified and shortlisted. Um, from that, the district then held interviews, and we worked with our procurement team with Brown and Caldwell and our selection committee, and we are bringing forward to award this contract to CH2M Hill, which is a subsidiary of the group. As we've discussed and outlined in this agenda item, we selected Jacobs based on their really their robust experience on operating and maintaining water and wastewater treatment facilities around the world, as well as specifically in California. They also do have some local presence right around the nearby California region. The scope of work that is before the board to again is considered phase one of the project. And within phase one, it's really, again, to provide expert opinion and advice and guidance, doing some analysis related to operations and operability and life cycle costs as we go forward with the design. The district at this point is not obligated to go forward with a long-term contract with the Jacobs firm, but they would be contracted to be with us through the development of the design. We have included in here kind of just highlights of the scope of work. I won't go into detail on that unless you guys have questions afterwards. Again, as I outlined earlier, there are subsequent steps to this as we go forward with the design and then ultimately the construction and operation. For this term of work for Jacobs, we are looking at a fixed monthly retainer. I am on page 192. Thank you, Becca. And I did just want to clarify that although it says it's the amount is shown in attachment 1, it actually is shown in attachment 2. So I do want to clarify that in the fee table for a monthly retainer, that would be a not amount of $300,000. This would be all inclusive of their scope, which is included in the attachment. And it is also something that the board has already approved when we brought forth our fiscal year 2019-2020 budget back in June of 2019.
Okay, so let's go into public comment. I think we just have Becky. So, Ron.
Is she unmuted, Becca?
Ms. Steinbrenner, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbrenner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. I do protest this going forward. And again, it is under litigation. And again, this is a huge expense that is being put forth after your district manager, Mr. Ron Duncan, on February 20th of 2019 stated under penalty of perjury to the Santa Cruz County Superior Court that all expenses for this project had to be declared by February 29th of 2020. You are past that deadline that your general manager told the court in his declaration had to be met. So I'm not sure where this money will come from. Under Mr. Duncan's declaration, it cannot come from the Prop 1 grant. I also want to make sure that in this process, there is proper attention to real-time point source monitoring within the incoming sewage so that there are ways to shut down this plant if there is a huge surge of a contaminant in the future. I also want to make sure that the city of Santa Cruz is very involved in this. I am aware of the agreement your district has with the city, and as I understand it, it would be the city that would operate it. This project has the possibility to have these designers operate it. Therefore, I want the city of Santa Cruz to be very involved in all this. And in final comment, I want to make sure that there is proper attention to the repair of the sewer effluent outfall pipe that is currently ruptured.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So now let's move on. Well, which side we start with? Let's start with Tom again.
Well, I mean, I know the thorough process that the district's gone through to come to this point, and like hours and hours and hours and very detailed analysis of the different options. So I'm very comfortable with the selection and don't have any other comments.
Okay, Michelle.
Yes, I'm certain that this is highly important because the people that are going to be running the plant and that are operators have a different perspective, and they need to be part of the solution and part of the design. And I'm really happy that we're doing this.
Okay, Mr. Jaffe.
An innovative approach. It's tested. I think it's great we're going this way.
Okay. Carla?
Yeah, I agree. From everything I've learned about how these projects are successfully enacted, this is a really important component, and I'm all for it.
Okay. I just wanted to comment that I know that the city is already has a representative on the design committee that's doing all this design work. So yeah, they're already part of it and they know all about it, and it's a joint effort. So that's a good thing.
I'll make both motions.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Okay. Director LeHue?
Yes.
Vice President Lather?
Yes.
Director Jaffe?
Yes.
Director Christensen?
Yes.
And President Daniels?
Yes. So now we go back to 7.5, the Consumer Confidence Report.
Yes, and we have Greg, I think, online now. Christine, did you have anything you want to say to introduce Greg again?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Greg, if you heard me before or not, but Greg is going to be presenting our annual draft Consumer Confidence Report, also known as the Water Quality Report, and he is our Water Quality Program Coordinator, doing a great job. So take it away, Greg.
Okay, how's the connection now?
You're great.
Good.
Good. Sorry about that, you guys. It worked in the dry run. Thanks, Christine. So we submitted this in draft form to the state last week. I look forward to hearing your questions and comments on it tonight. We did get a couple comments from the state back this morning. Easy things, I think. They just wanted us to standardize units in the table and potentially to update the Spanish language statement on the first page.
That sounds straightforward. Anything else?
The look and feel are going to be pretty similar to recent years. A lot of the same types of information are in here, the educational stuff on the system itself, the water sources, definitions on all the acronyms that are in there, and most of the quantitative information is going to be on the table here, page 6 of the CCR. Next one. There we go. That's kind of small on my screen. Can everybody see that okay?
We have our own copies, luckily.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, we've even read it. Imagine that.
So you guys have seen these before. I'm sure you remember what we're required to put in here are the constituents that are detected. But kind of like a catchy rhythm, part of the story is told in the beats that you don't hear. For example, the 900 bacteriological samples, 900 plus that we took last year that came back absent for coliform and E. coli. And I just wanted to, for my part, say thank you to the operators out there in the field, making sure that during the pandemic we have clean water to wash our hands with 800 times a day. There are a couple things that are slightly different or updated from last year's. We do lead and copper tap sampling every 3 years, and last year was an on year. So you can see there, thank you, Becca, that we had 36 sites, home sites that all came back under the action level for both lead and copper. And then at the top of the table, maybe I'll draw your attention to kind of a procedural point. On haloacetic acids, compliance is based on the locational running annual average. So while we do have a range of detections that go above 60, that higher result, that 79, was at the Cherryvale sample station. And there were 19 samples taken over the course of the year. The other 18 were all under. So that's why you see the average there is much lower than 60. The average for haloacetic acids was 8. Yeah, those are the main points that I wanted to bring up, and I can open it up for questions and comments.
Well, first let's do the public comment. So I believe Becky has the only public comment on that, so we'll go to her. Open up her online.
Ms. Steinbrenner, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbrenner. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you. I'd like to first ask why there is no report at all about chromium-6 included in the district's water quality analysis. It is a problem in your district, and it's not even reported here. So I would like an answer to that. I also wonder why in the radioactive constituents it says non-detect, where I have seen in earlier reports that there is a problem with radioactive constituents in the wells around Aptos Junior High. And then finally, I wanted to ask about the value of the 123 TCP. It says the average amount is 5, but in the footnote it said even though this was tested in 2019, it says that the district's only found in the Country Club well. So why is it, but it's not in use since 2017, why is it now being reported if it's tested in 2019? What's the source, what well, and I would like more information about that value. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, back to the board. Let's do Tom.
Well, I have no comment. I think it did another great job. Thank you.
Okay. And Rochelle? Rochelle?
Sorry, I don't know when I'm on or off here. I don't have any comments. I think it looks very nice. It's very easy to read.
Mr. Jaffe? Bruce?
Oh, Bruce Jaffe is muted. I'm going to unmute him.
Okay.
I'm back.
You're back. Okay. So do you have any comments or questions on this?
I just want to give staff opportunity at the end if they want to answer any questions.
Okay.
Okay.
I would like to, well, first, if staff has any answers they want to give, as Mr. Jaffe has requested. You can go, Greg.
Oh, okay, sure. Let's see, I started from backwards. Christine, do you want to handle the TCP stuff since that's coming up later?
Sure. If I understand the question, the well, Country Club well has been taken offline, but we continue to test it quarterly for trichloropropane, and we pump it to waste when we do that. So that is the value that is reported in the CCR is the for Country Club, and it's an average of 4 quarterly samples.
But it's water we do not use.
Correct.
Good.
Okay.
And then,
and then on the radionuclides step. So let's see, non-detect, I think this has come up in past meetings, that I wish they call it something besides non-detect. It's really what they mean is underneath the detection limit for the purposes of reporting. So it averages out as a level low enough that there's fuzziness there to the point where it's kind of hard to say for sure that it's there or not. So the average is under the detection limit for the purposes of reporting.
Is there any particular place that this is showing up with actual hits?
So most of the data for radionuclides is older. If we didn't have a full set for 2019, so that high result is close to 4 is from Altivo. And then we have a newer sample from 2019 that was non-detect for combined radium. And then there's quite a few older results too, back from 2006 and 2007 that were tabled in the public health goal report. Those were also non-detect. So I think it's just a little bit of an aberrant result on Altivo in particular. Different wells are set on different schedules based on how the gross alpha numbers come in, but Altivo was the one that was the highest. And then the other question was on chromium-6, so that's going to be embedded in the chromium total line there. We've got chromium at Bonita, San Andreas, and Altivo in that kind of 10 to 20 parts per billion range. Most of that is probably going to be chromium-6, so there isn't currently an MCL for it based on the lawsuit that they didn't take into consideration the cost of treatment, and that's still kind of pending, but it is still being regulated under the total chromium MCL.
Right. Okay, I think it's me now. I had questions about the ones under unregulated constituent monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
One butanol, and there's 2 other varieties of haloacetic acids. And wondering where are those found, and again, are these outliers or do they happen frequently?
Yeah. So this is older data that I guess you could argue does or doesn't belong in the CCR anymore. There isn't clear guidance on how long you should leave old UCMR monitoring in there. I guess the recommendation is up to 5 years, so we left it in, but there's no new data that hasn't already been covered. The one butanol, my understanding is that subsequent samples were non-detect, and then that's the reference concentration for health there is up at 700, and the result was trace at 2.4. So doesn't seem to be an active concern. On the haloacetic acids, those are larger sets of halogenated acetic acid that are just different species. So that's kind of like an expanded set of what we normally do with the HAA5. Those are taken at the same sites that our normal disinfection byproduct rule samples are taken. And that scale that they're at, 12 to 14, is just a tiny bit higher than the average 8 that we had, because there's a couple more extra species of brominated acetic acids that are in that group.
Were any of these numbers affected by the sharing we're doing with the city?
So there will be data that's embedded within because the disinfection byproduct sampling is all done out in the system. A couple of those sites are west of Park, and they are included in the averaging.
Okay.
Can I add something to that? So when the UCMR haloacetic acids were sampled, that was not during the water transfer, but towards the top of the table where we got that high hit of 79 parts per billion of haloacetic acids, that was during the water transfer in the isolated zone.
Ah, okay.
Right, thank you, Christine. Cherryville in March.
Becca, can you go to the top of the table, please?
That's the 79 up there.
Yep, there you go.
Right.
So
yeah, transfer. It can cause problems for water quality if we're not careful.
Yeah, that was exactly the question I had was whether we should add an explanation in the water quality report. I know it's mentioned in there, but maybe we should elaborate a little bit, because the Santa Cruz City water is an important part of it's gotten a lot of notice out in the public, and so it might be worth really making a point of describing if that figures in our some of the levels that we're seeing here are being reported.
In the footnote, you mean the 1B footnote?
Yeah, or
what's our
just,
wording on that if you scroll down, Becca?
Yeah.
1B.
What is it, 1A?
Page. A little further.
Sorry, which page?
The next one. Okay, next.
There you go.
1B.
Footnote. Yeah.
That just talks about the averaging.
Yeah, no, I get
Right.
that. And I think that's an important thing to note, but it just, I was thinking more in the discussion of the haloacidic acids, because that is a regulated chemical. That group is regulated.
Okay.
And other than that, that's the only thing. I think it's a very good report. It's nice and clear. I think there's a lot of good coverage, and it's very well done.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anyone wish to make any motions?
I'll move to approve it. Let's see, where is it? That is the motion, right?
No, it's just if we
Accept the report.
change it.
I've lost there. Okay, there we go.
Did you want to direct staff to expand the footnote, or?
Yes, I would. I just feel like a little bit more. I realize that the Santa Cruz Water Department didn't sell us that much water this year, but it's still. I think it should just. It's another place to reinforce, what happened, whether we got water, or we didn't get water, and how it figures in our totals, the haloacidic acids in particular. But also possibly the chlorinated part too.
Since it's something we know, I don't think we should keep it.
This is Ron. Thank you, Director Christensen. I would like Christine to speak up. I mean, I know, I think it's important information to convey. My concern is, I know these CCRs are very strict how you can do them. Christine, are we?
Right. I understand that.
I guess so you're looking to see something in that footnote for that value that was due to receiving Santa Cruz water?
I would just say during the transfer. Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, just something like that. It doesn't have to be another treatise or anything. But, and also that the city of Santa Cruz samples their water too, so they are monitoring this whole situation also.
Maybe I should jump in here. One little thing to note, just before we finger the city exactly, is that there were results from the intertie itself that day that were, I think, slightly under the MCL of 60. So it's not super obvious necessarily that it's just coming from the city. That there's also the question of age.
No, I understand. I understand that. It's just well, I keep trying to scroll back to the table, how I would rephrase that, if at all.
How can you do it?
I think staff understands the direction. I think it's to convey that these anomalies of the disinfection byproduct hits were taken during the water transfer. Even if it was at the intertie, if it goes out further in our system, it's still aging. So it could be built upon that. But
that's all. That's perfect. That would be something like that would be perfect from my point of view.
Okay. Christine, do you feel you have clear direction? I can work with you and Greg?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I'll propose that we approve the report with that small change.
I'll second.
Well, let's do a roll call then.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. So now we go back to the oral and written communications that were not, that we didn't have this one, which is almost all of them.
We go to back to
Okay, so
consent items, right?
Pardon?
We go back to consent items now?
Yeah, the consent items.
Yeah.
Okay, 7.4.11 is the first one. Becky?
And we have all received your comments, Becky. There's no need to be long-winded.
Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. I don't mean to be long-winded, and I don't think I can be long-winded in 2 minutes. So, again, I just want to point out that I don't think you should accept these March 3rd minutes as approved because they are incomplete. They do not give the public any information other than basic actions that the board took. There's no information for the public about how you came to the decisions that you did make that night because there was no recording of any kind made available due to some technical problems. So as a member of the public, you've told me that that level of detail is not necessary in your written minutes because you video or audio record your meetings. And that is not the case for the March 3rd meeting now. So there were some very significant decisions made that night. And as a member of the public, I request that you deny, that you reject these minutes as they are given to you tonight and ask that staff flesh them out with a better level of detail that will promote better transparency and public information. Thank you.
Okay. All right, staff, what do you want to do with this one? We're done.
Could we solicit a comment from Josh Nelson, please? Not.
Josh?
Yes, my recommendation would be to approve the minutes as presented. There are two types of minutes in the world of minutes, and there are action minutes and there are discussion minutes. And in what I think is the best practice, the district follows action minutes, and these are consistent with those. So my recommendation to the board would be consider approving the minutes.
I'll move approval.
I'll second it with one minor typo that I kept forgetting to say, and it's just under item 3, announcement. That's all. That's very minor.
What is the typo?
There's a missing N.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
that's all. And I wasn't going to do it on this, but it was like, okay, may as well do it as long as we're actually discussing this.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. All right. So we go next to item 2, the board planning calendar. Very contentious.
And actually, I know we're going to take public comment, but there is one error on it that I noted too after that. So I just want to make sure I remember.
Okay. You want to point it out?
Oh, I can. It's just that it listed the MGA meeting on May 21st, and I think it's on June 18th.
Oh, it got canceled again.
No, that's the schedule. I mean, the one in March didn't go forward because of COVID-19, but the next one is June 18th.
Okay.
Thank you. We were playing around, I think, and I left that on there. Appreciate it.
So let's go to public comment. Becky?
Do they have you locked out?
Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Thank you.
Well,
This
yes,
is
we hear
Becky
you.
Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have direct public comment at your meeting tonight. And I just want to say that I hope that you will give an extra level of noticing for the April 21st meeting, but also the May 5th meeting when you're planning to have the budget review. I also remember that Director Jaffe asked for a presentation by rate consultants Raftelis to give a clearer picture to the board how these new rate increases really are affecting people's rates and bills. You've heard from many customers that their bills have become hundreds of dollars when they were not before. So I want the public to know, especially with these new methods of joining your meeting, how they can do that. So I respectfully ask that you send out your email blast to all of your ratepayers and do an extra level of noticing for the April 21st and especially the May 5th meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't think we approve these. Anyone wish to comment on them? Director?
No.
Okay. That being the case, let's move on to the next one. 4.3, special board assignments. Open for Becky.
Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Don't sound too disgusted. Thank you. I am amazed that this the finance director's report is in the consent agenda. You've heard this presentation from her before, and in fact, it was one of the very few questions that the California Coastal Commissioners had of your staff present at the Coastal Commission March 11th hearing for the consolidated permit was, what help are you going to give to your ratepayers?
I don't know what you're talking about. This is the general
Project. So I'm sorry, I'm speaking. I don't have much time. So what I want to say is that this aid for low-income customers should be much more prevalent on your website. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it. And I just want to make sure that your ratepayers know that you are nearly at the qualification for a 50% credit on their bills. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone have anything to say about this? Okay, let's go on. Let's see, that was 4.3, wasn't it? So this would be 4.4, the general manager purchase order approval. Becky?
Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. This is
Yes,
Becky Steinbruner. You hear me. Thank you very much. I just want to register protest that, again, your general manager is putting out a huge amount of money, $5,749,902 to pay for 3 Pure Water Soquel project components. And all of these are, again, coming after he said in the court of law that none of this could be included in the reimbursement payments by the state Prop 1 grant. Again, that was the deadline he stated in court of February 29th of this year, 2020. You are well past that, and I take protest that this is continuing on. Thank you.
Okay, done with that. Anyone wish to comment on this? See no one. Let's go on to 4.5, the February warrants. Becky?
Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. I like to look through the warrants because that's where you see where the money's going. I have questions about where some of this money is going. Most notably, I want to point out to you and to any members of the public that may hear this audio recording that your district paid Best and Krieger $18,610 to oppose my motion to strike costs, that the costs were only a little over $2,800. So I really think this is a foolish waste of money. I also want to point out and protest that for February alone, the total warrants for items regarding Pure Water Soquel are $536,214 just for the month of February. I am happy to see that Montgomery & Associates is moving forward on the final anti-degradation analysis report that really should have been done before the environmental analysis was certified for the project. The $58,207 for the final anti-degradation analysis, and I'm looking forward to seeing that report. I also would like to have a discussion about the expenses for the water transfers. Are the water transfers still occurring? Are they going to start up again before the end of the period comes, May 1st? And what are the results of those sampling that were paid for? And when will that become known to the public? And I think you very nicely addressed, and thank you, Director Jaffe, your sensitivity to those who are going to have a very hard time paying their bills, to waive these late fees. Your district has paid in February $6,000 to go after late fees.
Okay, so that was 4.5. Now we go to 4.6. And this was something Carla wanted to speak on.
Oh, yeah. Wait a second. I just wanted to note, if you look at the production, we'll just look at the system, the Soquel Water District system production, keep it general so I can move on. In February, it rained not a drop. And if you'll notice, the water production increased quite a bit with no water. So there's outdoor water coming out, and I'd like to further point out and remind people that at the beginning of the rainy season, it was predicted that all the models predicted a extended drought this winter. So if that had actually happened this year, this rainy season, we might have been looking at greatly higher production levels in our system. And that's all I want to say, is that to not overlook that month. Is a month, and it would have been a hot dry month, and more water consumption starting in February instead of May. So anyway, that's all.
Director comments?
Yeah, I just wondered whether or not there are any indications in our production whether people are using more or less water during shelter in place.
That's a great question. As you know, February was not a time of shelter in place, so we don't think any of that increase was due to shelter in placing. I think it's as Director Christensen said. However, Christine, do you want to elaborate on that? What you've seen, the analysis for the...
Yeah, so this morning I looked over the production numbers for the last 2 weeks. The first week there was basically no change from the prior year, but this past week there was a 12% increase over the prior year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
So
let's go on to 4.7. Consider approval of scopes of work for professional consulting services. I'm not sure which staff is doing this one now.
Well, I think we're just taking comment. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, 4.7 was either Eileen or Melanie.
Right, but President Daniels, this was asked to be pulled. It was on consent. Do you want to just take?
Sure. Take the comment. Okay. Public comment. Becky.
Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, go
Oh,
on.
thank you. All right, thank you. I never trust technology, so thank you.
Always wise.
I just want to confirm that I, again, protest this expense when the project is under litigation. And I do want to note that on the hydrologic contract that there is more work being done on the final anti-degradation study report. I am happy to see that, and I look forward to receiving that report, and would like to ask when the public might see the final version of the anti-degradation study. And again, I want to protest all of this expense. Thank you.
Thank you. Director comment? Moving on to 4.8.
President
I
Daniel,
make a motion.
apologies. We need a motion on
All right.
4.7. Actually, we actually also need a motion on 4.5. Emma reminded me by text message. So if it'd be okay with the board, maybe we could do one.
Right, okay. I'll make the motion on the February warrants.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. And now we need a motion on 4.7.
I'll make.
Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
I'll make the motions.
I'll second.
I'll second. Turn on my microphone.
Roll call, please.
I heard Tom LaHue first. Is he the second?
Yes.
He's the first second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard myself first, but that was because it was off.
Okay, so roll call. Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. So now we go to 4.8.
Okay.
And we have public comment on that. Ms. Becky?
Yeah, and I know this one, I think was pulled by Director Christensen, actually. So we're, Shelley's, we're glad to give a little quick intro if you like.
Yeah, I was hoping
we'll have to-
Shelley would speak on it a little bit first.
Hi, this is Shelley Flock, Conservation Customer Service Field Manager. Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So this is an annual update on water supply conditions and request for board approval to continue under our current Stage 3 water shortage stage declaration that was adopted last April. But we've essentially been in a Stage 3 since 2014. Due primarily to groundwater basin conditions, overdraft, and seawater intrusion. And some of those years, we've also triggered the low rainfall and recharge conditions. So all we're asking here is just to continue under our current Stage 3 declaration, which does not have any emergency rate in effect, and that request is based on continuing overdraft and seawater intrusion as documented in the 2019 annual report by Montgomery and Associates. I also have Hannah, if you have any questions about the groundwater basin conditions. Look at the other rainfall trigger condition, then that total puts us in what would be a Stage 2 water supply shortage. So we're, by both rainfall, recharge, and groundwater conditions, we're in a shortage stage, and we think it should continue with a Stage 3, which is a 25% curtailment over 2013 production levels.
Okay, let's go to public comment first. Becky?
Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm I'm really amazed that this is on the consent agenda. I really am. And I support the continued conservation efforts, but I want to really point out on the bottom of page 116, it says, as described in the 2019 annual report by Montgomery and Associates, there has been an improvement in groundwater conditions based on rising groundwater levels in the basin in water year 2019 when compared to conditions shown in the GSP based on water years 2016 and 2017. These improvements are attributed to 1, lower water consumption, and thus lower groundwater pumping over the past 5 years. 2, water year 2019 is classified as a wet year, which is the second wet year in 3 years. And number 3, pilot tests that provided surface water from outside of the basin into the basin as groundwater recharge and for in-loop use to reduce groundwater pumping. I want to bring to your attention and to those who may be listening to this that this is a big improvement using a regional solution, and we have to recognize that and should not be rushing forward with the idea that the groundwater basin is in critical overdraft when it's only been determined by the state, but with not showing any current information. So the Pure Water Soquel project, in my opinion, is not an urgent, essential project, and that we should really be looking at improving and expanding the use agreements with City of Santa Cruz, looking for expanded water rights, which are completely possible, but you are not pursuing.
Thank you. Okay, directors?
I just have to make a little comment because there's so much misinformation there that I'm trying to get things to go her way. So I'm sorry, but you know, it's pretty clear that the state with excellent data has determined we are a critically overdrafted basin, that the protective levels are not there. And until we have protective levels, we're at risk of seawater intrusion. So I get tired of that.
It's kind of like saying things are a little better in New York with the virus, so let's stop all of our work.
Exactly. It's just annoying. Sorry.
And I'll just contribute. I think the thing that I'd like to make the public aware of, I know the board is that, yeah, we've had 2 wet years, which is great. And we've been able to, I think, achieve about maybe a third of the transfer that we wanted over the last 2 years. Not even the top, just 300 acre feet, but very, very small amounts of that due to difficulties, not so much on our end, but either lack of rainfall or whatever. But the main thing is, if a couple years don't come, then it gets even. It's just risky, and what you're risking is a community's water supply on just surface water. And you know, I think as stewards of the basin, which we are, hope Class Admirable won't get us there. We need science-backed solutions like we've been pursuing with the community water plan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I pulled it because I did agree with Becky that we should highlight and discuss this because it is really important. But you know, our past season of rainfall season, as I mentioned before, just underscores how uncertain our year-to-year rain accumulation is, or our recharge accumulation is. And I think even Santa Cruz would agree with that, and they are not in a position to even make that kind of a commitment based on the past 5 years of rainfall. It's been extremely uneven. We've had 2 rainy years, looked like it was going dead dry in the month of February. We're saved by some rainfall in March. You know, this is not a reliable water source at the moment for our population. So that's, I really do disagree with the idea that because of 2 rainy seasons, we are on our way. We're not.
Mr. Jaffe, I think you have some things.
Well, Becky did pull a sentence from or a paragraph from the report, and she highlighted the last part of it, which is the water transfer. But she didn't highlight the first part. I think Ron started to. When Carla asked to pull the water production reports, it's just very obvious. I'm looking at the numbers now. In the past 5 years, you know, we're a lot more of the reduction is due to the decrease in consumption because people are using less water than from the water transfer. So if anything, the major factor there in improvement, besides the wet years, is that people are using less water. The water transfer is just a minor factor. So, but I do agree with her that regional management is the way to go. And we are doing that with the groundwater sustainability plan, working with the city of Santa Cruz, county of Santa Cruz, private well pumpers, Central Water District. These are good things, so we can solve this together.
I'd just like to mention that the normal season to date would be 28.76 inches. And what have we actually gotten? 23.7. So we're 5 inches below normal as of now.
Well, can I make the motion that we retain the current resolution and maintain the?
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
I wish we didn't have to, but we do. Yes.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
and President Daniels.
Yes. So finally, we get to item 4.10, adopt a resolution, designation of Soquel Creek Water District, resolution for non-state agencies. And let's see.
Oh, wait, don't we have, oh, no, we don't, never mind.
Becky?
Ms. Steinbruner, you are now unmuted.
Thank you. This is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to again register my concern that this action would give broad decision-making powers to your general manager. And I also have seen that it would allow items in an emergency to be brought forward to the board for action that are not on the agenda as I read the information. So I think that your board should really take time to look at this before you rush forward into it, given that everyone is so stressed right now. I think that it would behoove you to take some time and look at this before you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Daniels, would it be okay if I just make a brief comment on this?
You're allowed to have public comment too.
Sorry, I just wanted to add some context to this. This item is really a form resolution just to ensure that the district can be eligible for FEMA reimbursement. And this resolution is not specific to this emergency. It's a resolution that agencies should adopt once every 3 years in case there's any emergency declared. It just allows us to be eligible for Cal OES and FEMA reimbursement. Thank you.
Yeah, President Daniels, if I may chime in, this is Ron. Yeah, this is for the customers. This is so we can recover money spent during an emergency and help them with lower rates. So that's what this is about.
Seems obvious to me that it's a good thing. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Oh, that was
This is like, let me have this one.
Close.
Okay, I'm recording Director Lather as the second.
Oh, fine.
Okay,
So she doesn't get the jackpot question.
roll call, please.
Director LaHue,
Yes.
Vice President Lather,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes, thank you, Josh, for bringing this forward.
Director Christensen,
Yes.
President Daniels.
Yes. Before we go into closed session, I would like to thank Emma and Becca for arranging all this complicated meeting stuff, making sure that our software works, and our protocols are, working well, and they've done a lot of work on this, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Just to be clear, we're leaving this meeting and then there's a separate meeting.
Yeah, we're
Yes.
Right. And there is public comment before that.
Yes, and Becca will remain on the line to report out.
Well, we get public comment on the closed session now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
Ms. Steinbruner, you've been unmuted.
Hear me? Hi, this is Becky Steinbruner. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Thank you. I just want to reinstate something I mentioned earlier during the warrants, that the district spent over $18,000 for Best and Krieger to, again, fly up from Southern California and oppose my motion to strike the memorandum of costs. Those costs, in my opinion, were not reasonable, and that was purely taken as a punitive measure. I have no money. The judge did award your district the full ability to collect all of that money, but I want to tell you, I have no money. I'm doing this for the public benefit, and I'm doing all the legal work myself because I have no money. It is going forward in the Court of Appeals. Santa Clara County Court of Appeals is also shut down. That will be case H as in Hector 047733 whenever the courts do resume. But again, I wanted to let you know that I am not trying to cause you trouble. I see many problems with this project. Many people see problems with this project. And again, I think it behooves your district to slow down and really look at other options, including pursuing the 5-year-long temporary water rights expansion that is now available to you, doing another SqCWD helicopter survey to see where these saltwater, freshwater interfaces really are now. I just want to let you know that I think you all have the same hope that I do to make sure that this area is safe and has an affordable source of water, but it is not pure water SoCal. That will not be affordable to your ratepayers.
Thank you.
President
Okay.
Daniels, may I make a clarification, please?
Pardon?
Yeah, please do.
May I make a clarification?
Okay.
There's a misstatement there. Not all the money that Ms. Steinbruner is referring to is to the case that the judge ordered for the money that we should collect from her. And I should be clear, the money is for the public benefit. It goes to our customers through us, and then also we have to give some of it back to the court for the cost to the taxpayers for the cost associated with the actions that Ms. Steinbruner's taken. So it goes to the customers and the taxpayers, public benefit.
Okay. All right, so we are now going to close session so each of you should log out of this session and log into the session. And Becca, if you could make sure that all of us get logged out of here. If any of us are left out here, and we might, our speech might end up going through the regular session.
Yeah, I can remove you.
Good. So just in case someone forgets somehow to log out of here. So.
Okay.
And Becca's going to stay on and report out closed session. Is that correct, President Daniels?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
closed session meeting adjourned at 9:36 p.m. The board discussed item 8.1 and 8.2 in closed session. No action was taken. Thank you, and this meeting is done.